it's okay to take a moment, get centered, look around, acknowledge the people that are in the room, take a breath, take a beat, and then start the presentation. I get my clients to a place to where they are centered, they're paying attention to what's going on in their body, what they're feeling, and then from there we move into the physical. I will take a moment and say, okay, I need you to get centered. What does that mean? Some people have no idea what it means. Some people are walking around not being in their bodies. They're just kind of floating around and going through the motions, but not really being present. So that is part of my mission, is to help women and girls, and sometimes men, but mostly my clients are women, to really focus, turn inward and be present within themselves, within their own bodies.
Welcome to yourbrilliance.com. I'm your host, Amy Waterman. And today you are in for a treat. You're about to learn how to command a room using nothing more than your physical presence. Now, models do this all the time. As they strut down that runway, they hold everyone's attention, and they don't even have to say a word. But what if you're the sort of person who shrinks back when all eyes are on you? What if you have to make a presentation or introduce a speaker and all you can do is mumble into that microphone, just wishing you could be invisible? Well, that's where runway coaching comes in. Our guest for today, Etirsa South, is a runway coach for models, corporate clients, and female entrepreneurs. Her mission is to teach individuals how to discover their own unique style of presenting themselves. She got her start walking the runway for Armani, Oscar de la Renta, and Roberto Cavalli. And now her role is to empower women and teens to feel confident both on and off the runway. Welcome, Etirsa.
Thank you so much for having me today.
So I want to get straight into it. Let's say we've got a woman who has to walk into a room and deliver a talk or a pitch or something, and she's terrified. What would you tell her?
The first thing that I would tell her to do is to really take a physical inventory before she walks into that room. How is she feeling? Where is the stress within her body? And literally breathe. And it sounds very yogi woo-woo, but literally breathe into that part of the body. So if she's feeling that her throat is collapsing on itself, breathe into your throat. Really get the blood flowing in that area of the body. And then once you walk into the room or onto the stage, you don't have to say anything right away. It's okay to take a moment, get centered, look around, acknowledge the people that are in the room, take a breath, take a beat, and then start the presentation.
Wow. Like just listening to that, I can just feel myself, whoa, get more grounded. Now, see, I was thinking you were going to say something like, stand up straight, walk with confidence. But what you're talking about is actually more psychological hacks to get yourself into a more empowered state.
Yes, because without the mind, the body's not going to follow. Do you know what I'm saying? So I get my clients to a place to where they are centered, they're paying attention to what's going on in their body, what they're feeling, and then from there we move into the physical. So it depends on the person. It's not necessarily, I don't necessarily do visualization exercises with every single client, but when it's necessary, when I see or I can feel, I'm very sensitive to what my clients are feeling. Sometimes they're holding their breath and then I hold my breath, so I know that they're not breathing. And I will take a moment and say, okay, I need you to get centered. What does that mean? Some people have no idea what it means. Some people are walking around not being in their bodies. They're just kind of floating around and going through the motions, but not really being present. So that is part of my mission, is to help women and girls, and sometimes men, but mostly my clients are women, to really focus, turn inward and be present within themselves, within their own bodies.
So what kinds of problems do you see then? We are obviously not grounded. I can definitely relate with floating off away from your body. You know, if you're really nervous, it's normal to disassociate. Like you don't want to be there. So you just like mentally you're not there. So we've got that. Probably nervousness is a huge thing, you know, racing heart. I definitely can relate to tensing up your body before you have to do something. What else are we doing? Like are we slouching? What else?
So yes, the tensing up, that's a huge one. And oftentimes people just think tension, shoulders, right? Tension, maybe slumping. But there's so many other parts of our bodies that we hold tension in. Like a common one, women hold their hands like this. It's the weirdest thing. So when they're walking, their hands are completely balled, like fists. So that's one of the things that I do with my clients is I help them identify. I mean, I'm able to see what they're doing. So I articulate it to them in a way that they can start to understand what it is that they're doing and then identify it on their own. That's one thing. And also I would say holding the breath is a big one. A lot of people just, and I'm guilty of it too. I'm not perfect. I just have the experience of checking in with myself constantly to identify when I'm doing those things that are inhibiting my cruising through life, if that makes sense. So if I'm holding my breath, I'm not living. And I go through that many times a day. I have an injury here, and this is one of the things that I find myself doing. My shoulder has always popped up, and it doesn't even hurt anymore. It's just muscle memory. So I have to check in with myself and remind myself, you're not stressed. What's going on with the shoulder, Etirsa? Drop that shoulder, unclench your hands if that's something that I'm doing. And that's what I bring to my clients, things like that.
So do you find that when your clients learn to relax and get grounded, that they actually end up feeling more confident because their body is in a more confident state?
Absolutely. Yes. Once they're relaxed, once they're breathing and they're being mindful of their breath, they're being mindful of what their muscles are doing, everything just falls into place. And sometimes that is the biggest barrier is to get to, for them to really embody relaxation. So once we cross that hurdle, everything just really starts to flow.
That is amazing to think that the big secret lies in being able to be physically relaxed. Because one of the things we see, we see so much on social media, women in very contorted poses, not breathing. Well, of course we can't breathe because then our chest would come out and people would see our tummies, and the duck face selfie. So it's wonderful to hear that actually maybe the problem is that we just need to relax and be natural as opposed to being tight and contorted.
Yeah, and we need to be present. Part of the human experience is being here, really being. And a lot of times we're just not being. We're faking, we're floating, and we're not in the moment.
So do
And
you
I think that
think
that's, sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
that's okay. Do you think that that is actually one of the secrets to being attractive? We often think attractiveness is having the perfect body, but is it actually having a grounded, centered, calm relationship with your body?
I think so. Absolutely. So one of the things that I've learned throughout my education, I studied with a woman named Patricia Allen years ago. And one of the things that she mentioned to me that she taught me was, um, you brought it up earlier. You said that we disassociate.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of people are basically walking around traumatized. We're walking around traumatized. We've had bad experiences or just a trauma of sometimes leaving your house, people who suffer from anxiety, etc. And so we do just separate ourselves, our spirits or whatever you want to call it from our bodies. So we're just cruising through without even being present. Part of getting past that trauma, part of being able to be within our bodies is really to just be connected to our inside, so to speak, our spirits, our core, what makes us tick. And we ignore a lot of those things because of trauma. So it's not, and I say this very gently, it's not that people are walking around and they refuse to look within. It's not about that. It's just realizing like, hey, I used to do it. I used to do it. I would go through experiences and I wouldn't even remember what just happened because I was so disconnected from myself. So yes, that is something that can definitely help people, is to be more grounded, to really be conscious of what's going on within. Excuse me, if they have a back issue, where is that coming from? Is it because you actually hurt yourself, or is it because you're so stressed and you're so tense that you're causing yourself pain? Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to talk about is I think one of the reasons some people disassociate, and I know I've done this in the past, is because they don't like the body they're in. Like, we often think that our lives would be so much easier if we all looked like supermodels. But, what happens when a woman is actually profoundly uncomfortable in this body that she's ended up in? What if she has a few extra pounds and she thinks, well, I can't present confidence in my body because I don't feel it. What would you tell her?
I think the realization that everyone has their thing. Everyone has their thing. The supermodels have it. The fitness divas have it. They all have their thing that they're not the most comfortable or confident about. But it's really moving past that and realizing that there's so much more than, for me, for example, I was born with a 40-inch waist practically. I'm kidding, but I came out of the womb with a large waist. That's just me. That's how I'm built. It's the most, I know how to dress to hide it so that it's not in the forefront of everyone's vision. But everybody has their thing. So once you realize that you're not alone in that, I think that can be really helpful. And also learning how to dress for your body type, whether you're 120 pounds and 5'10" or 220 pounds and 5'3". Do you know what I mean? There's always a way for a woman to dress to complement what she's working with.
That's fantastic. So let's go back to a woman who wants to communicate that she's strong, she's powerful, she's somebody to take seriously. What are some simple body tweaks that she could use to present an air of confidence and authority?
Mm-hmm. I would say the pause. Believe it or not, the pause. Taking the moment to really take in the room, take in yourself, breathe, see who's there, make eye contact with the person or people that you're speaking with. Even if it's a room of 20 people or 30 or 100 people, you can still take a moment with almost each of those people and just really connect on the human level. And that, I think, is more important that's the most important thing, So yes, I do help people with the physical aspect, but the psychological aspect, I think, and the emotional is so, so important. So I think that's what really separates me, what I do, from some other fantastic runway coaches out there, is that I identify the emotional, the physical, the physiological, all of it. So does that answer your question?
That is fantastic. So I want to look at a different woman with different needs. Let's say there's a woman who goes out on dates or goes to parties and just ends up freezing. She wants to flirt. She wants to be sexy, but she's just not there. What would you recommend to her?
I would recommend the way she dresses, number one, and being mindful that let's say you're dating the opposite sex or even the same sex, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to get political here, but whoever you're dating or whoever you want to attract, I think dressing the part as if you want eyes on you. You know what I mean? So if you're going to wear a muumuu, maybe that's not going to attract the eyes that you want. So firstly, I would say what you wear. Second of all, I would say to really own your space. Own your space, own your breath. And I keep going back to the breath because it is so important. So if you are seated, let's say, you go to a restaurant by yourself and you're sitting in the corner, instead of sitting there being on your phone, I think it's important to really take in the scenery, look at who may be looking back at you. Let that look last a few seconds longer than just oh, hi, oh my gosh, she's looking at me, and look away,
So let's do one final woman. Let's say we've got a woman who is getting a little bit older and she thinks this stuff is fine for the young folks, but for me, I just not me. And one of the reasons I emphasize with this, I am that old woman now, is like you, I've got injuries. I wake up and I'm stiff sometimes and I'm sore. And sometimes I go out in the world and I just can't own it because everything hurts. what can women in that position do to kind of take control of how they're presenting themselves?
Fix it. Honestly, take some yoga classes, go to a physical therapist, start swimming, get back into your body. Because what happens is as time passes, the bad habits get worse and the good habits get better. So if you're constantly slouched or you're guarding like I do, eventually, if I don't keep checking myself, when I'm, 20 years from now, this is going to be a very real thing for me. Do you know what I'm saying? That this will be an everyday appearance for me if I don't continue to check myself and take measures to improve it. So that for the older lady, it's, I would say, more important because you're closer to the point of no return.
Yeah.
We're probably the same age. So yeah, we are closer to the point of no return if we don't take care of those issues that are continually ailing us because we've neglected ourselves in one way or another.
That is so true. And I've always recommended yoga, but yoga every morning, even 15 minutes, can really start your day off right. So I want to talk about what you do for your clients. Now, you're based in San Diego and you work with clients one-on-one.
Yes. So I work in San Diego, Los Angeles, and sometimes people will have me go fly wherever they want me to go. So I have a passport, so I go. But, it depends on who the client is. So if it's a model, then that's pretty obvious. I help the model walk the runway. If it's a woman who is just looking to carry themselves with more confidence, first, sometimes we will address the wardrobe. And that is more so with my women entrepreneur clients, more so than the models. The models they have their agencies that are developing them, and they have people helping them with their image. Sometimes I will step in and help with some of their outfits for castings and so on. But most of my entrepreneur clients, some of them just really don't know how to dress. So what I do is I bridge. I do not call myself a stylist, but I know enough about clothes and I know enough about the woman's body to help people get into clothes that are going to help them represent their very best selves. So I will go in and respectfully pull out things in their closet that just aren't serving them. So that's number one. Number two is back to the physical. How are they holding themselves? Are they breathing? We'll do some exercises to, get them back inside or inside for the first time. Some people just they don't know what that feels like. And I've had people burst into tears before when they realize that they are breathing full breaths for the first time, or that they're really conscious of what's going on at that moment. And then from there, sometimes we will do improv exercises. So I pull in what I've learned through acting and some of the improv lessons that I've had. And I bring that into my work with my clients because we need to know how to think on our feet. And sometimes we're so involved in our cell phones, and I'm guilty of it. Like my cell phone is an appendage, but we're so involved in things other than our minds at the moment. Do you know what I'm saying? And so I bring in the improv to really help people get thinking on their feet. If they do have a presentation to give and somebody throws them off their mark and asks a question or gets up to go, take a phone call or something like that, and they're kind of thrown off their game a little bit, improv really helps them get back to center quick. It helps them to think quick on their feet. And I think that's really important, especially as women, to be able to do that, to just not get thrown off of our game.
Yeah.
And then it's the movement, how are they walking? How are they holding their bodies? And we have these little idiosyncrasies that we're not even aware of. And it takes sometimes someone like myself to identify those things respectfully and lovingly, because when you're pointing out something that isn't necessarily serving another person, you've got to be so gentle with them, so I mix a lot of humor. I laugh at myself a lot because I think I'm quite funny. No, I'm kidding. But it's important to approach them with a lot of love, respect, and reverence, because they're being vulnerable. And when somebody gives you a piece of their vulnerability for you to help them or for you to love them or whatever it is, like, that's such a gift. So I feel that it's a gift for me to do what I get to do with my clients. And so I approach them very, very kindly. Honestly, I don't hide things from them. I don't, if something just doesn't look good on that, it doesn't serve them for me to sugarcoat it and say, oh yeah, that'll work on you. No, it doesn't work on you. So let's try something else. Let's get rid of that.
That's fantastic. Now, for those of you watching, if you want to work with Etirsa personally or just find out more about Runway coaching, we've got a link for you. Just go to yourbrilliance.org/runway. That's yourbrilliance.org/runway. Thank you, Etirsa, for coming on and sharing this fantastic information. And I wanted to know if you had any last message you would like to leave our viewers with.
Be present. We only have one life in this body, and just really live it. Really feel everything that you're going through, every experience that you're walking through, be it good, bad, ugly. Really feel every bit of it and be present. And then hire someone like me to help you identify those parts that could really use some help. And I would love to do that.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. And thank you for watching. We hope to see you again soon. Until then, let your brilliance shine.